This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benerofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And me, Peter Katz, formerly with NBC, ABC News, and stations from Boston to Los Angeles. White Plains Week, what's happening? Who are the newsmakers? What's in store for the future? The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. White Plains, Westchester, and the world at large. John Bailey with the Dean of the School of Journalism in White Plains, New York, USA, Jim Benerofe to my left, and the anchor for all season, Peter Katz, way to my right. And right now...
Are you speaking politically by any chance?
Who, me? Political? Who's political these days? Meanwhile, he is headlining.
Okay, and here are the headlines for Friday, April 13th, 2018. White Plains and Westchester observe Holocaust Remembrance Day in White Plains, New York, USA. Ginsburg Development purchases Westchester Financial Center, plans city square renovation. Elcor plans April 18th grand opening of the Continuum on Bank Street. County Executive George Latimer eliminates the arrested convicted question mark box on county employment applications and signs law eliminating salary history questions on all employer applications in the county. Owner of building next to City Hall fires 7 union employees because they are union members. Union says that's against the law. Building department discovers the no arcade ordinance spoils the exports opening in the Galleria over excessive arcading. Housing sales soften in first quarter in Hudson Valley. We'll have another report on the continuing chronic dysfunction in Washington, 2 years and 8 months to go. Sister Act opens at Westchester Broadway Theater, and it's a massive success. Zuri Washington is a diva for all seasons, sensational in the lead.
Thank you, Jim. And we go right now to the White Plains Week World Newsreel March of Time for Friday, the 13th. And this, of course, was the gathering yesterday at noon in White Plains at the Garden of Remembrance. There was a procession of rescued Torahs. Here's one shown here. That's a Torah being carried, and it was just a very solemn ceremony, and we'll have more on that later. And the big news of the week, Peter Katz and Jim Benerofe, was the shocker of the week, and Ginsburg Development announced a big deal.
Well, you know, an iconic site in White Plains is the Westchester Financial Center. There are two main addresses they use, 50 Main Street and 11 Martine Avenue. This was built in the late 1980s, and it was really a hallmark of the urban renewal of downtown White Plains. Robert Martin Company built it, and if you arrive in White Plains, you will know that you have passed the Westchester Financial Center. Now we have some video of it that we can take a look at while we're talking.
Right.
And here we see the train station as photographed from right in front of 50 Main Street, which is the main location. The project itself consisted of 3 buildings at the time: 50 Main Street, 11 Martine Avenue. 50 Main was 15 stories, this one is 14. And there also was a 3rd building put up by Robert Martin Company, an apartment building. The landmark, of course, was this sculpture. It was very unusual to see sculptures around town back in those days. It was a real landmark for commuters coming into the city. The property itself is bounded by Martine and Bank and Main and South Lex. This is the apartment building called the Metro. Ginsberg Development Companies purchased this in 2017 in a separate transaction. Now, Robert Martin Company, which built it, sold out of the property in 1997. The entity which has now purchased this parcel is composed of principals of Ginsberg Development and also Robert Martin LLC.
A very familiar name in White Plains development.
Indeed, indeed it is. Now they plan to do some refurbishing there. They're going to rebrand it. They're going to call it City Square. And their intent is to position it as luxury office, luxury apartments, retail, restaurants, and there's a 2-acre central court on that property that they're going to use for recreational purposes, for other purposes, and they also intend to upgrade what they call the streetscape to make it even more attractive as a focal point of the downtown. This is right adjacent to the train station area, and of course the train station area is now the focus of this redevelopment plan or proposal being developed.
Aesthetic.
The transit district.
As an aesthetic train station.
So Jim, you know, was I exaggerating, Jim, in your recollection that this was really a key to the redevelopment, the urban renewal that went on in White Plains in the 80s?
Yeah, well, Robert Martin did a lot of work for the city and a lot of development, and very good development, really. And this was, at the time, really a great project. And I also think that it was one of the more interesting architectural designs for the downtown area. One that is worth being there.
At the time, I remember it being a rather striking development. In other words, this was modern. This had city, this had metropolis written all over it. This had sophistication. It had luxurious office, you know, stamped across the buildings. Plus the name, Westchester Financial Center, had great depth, had gravitas to it.
Yes, when finance had gravitas. Yes. Now it's just got embarrassments.
It's going to be interesting to see how I've been in some of Martin Ginsberg's buildings. I think one on Sawmill River Road in particular, and I like the way he designs residential units. I hope that they put in some larger residential units here, and I think it's the right place to do that.
I believe there are 124 units in the existing apartment building, which he rebranded as the Metro. That's the name they have on it. Whether they will do anything in terms of renovating those existing apartments, I don't know. They are positioning them, or they have positioned them, as being luxury apartments. But it would be unique to take one of the office towers and now convert what is strictly office into a mixed use One important feature that I remember was really striking when these towers opened in the late 80s was the use of artwork on the inside. There was an art gallery in there. They had water sculpture on the property. The lobbies were two-story soaring areas. It was a very sleek design at the time.
Yeah, this was different for the 80s.
Yeah.
Now, all businesses are like that, and there's another opening coming up on next week, and that is the opening of the Elcor Continuum. Then that's going to take place Wednesday.
55 Bank Street.
Right across the street.
Now, the people are already in the building. They have
It's actually been renting for a while.
Yeah. But this is the formal opening, which will take place.
Yeah, that's what's going. Yes, you guys should go down and plunk down down payment.
We should buy a few.
Yeah, buy a few.
Well, it's rental. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a condo.
Oh well, that's right. It is rental.
Actually, you know, that's interesting that you bring that. The name Continuum sort of makes you think condominium, doesn't it?
Yes.
If you're not looking carefully.
Yes. Well, the continuum, it means you're continuing, right, continuing. Now, what was very big and somewhat historic making and changing this week was County Executive George Latimer, in a news conference up in Ossining, eliminated the box which asks if you've ever been arrested or convicted on the county employment applications. And this is what it was all about.
Pay their debt to society, to have that second chance, to be able to come back in and find employment, appropriate employment for themselves with Westchester County, where we have a range of positions, executive positions to hourly worker positions. And here's the John Pico with Hudson.
Catherine, George, thank you so much for inviting us today. I think legislatively, this is a brilliant move. As someone that spent half his life in prison and now runs a nonprofit that directly works with this population, I can tell you firsthand, when I came home, you want, as I moved next door to you, to understand my background as well as anyone else. I think that this population is coming home. This population in this county, and also a county that has worked directly with us to help us grow this population. We're now working in 6 prisons so that when these men and women return back to the community, they're educated and they're ready for a second chance. They're brilliant in the workplace. It has been unbelievable to now partner legislatively, but also in the workplace with all the folks that are making this happen. So I am super excited, not just because I'm personally affected, but because the population that I'm working with understands firsthand that second chances are born right here with legislators that care.
Thank you very much. So we have the executive order, which I will sign into effect as of this day. It's called the Westchester County Fair Chance to Work Policy, and dated today, and it's now in effect.
And he also signed another bill.
Well, you know, so we know that that if you're a convicted felon or something, and you want to get a job with the county, they can't ask you about that anymore.
No, but it can come up in an interview.
And if you're going for a job interview and the employer thinks they can get you for a lower salary if they knew how much you earned at your previous job, so that they can keep any offer they make to you at a low level, well, that has changed now. So they make it a requirement on the job application that you disclose your past earnings history. Well, not anymore, because they can't trap you like that anymore, at least here in Westchester County.
April 10th was Equal Pay Day, created in 1996 by the National Committee on Equal Pay. And on April 10th, Westchester County Executive George Latimer, with members of the Board of Legislators looking on, signed into law the Wage History Anti-Discrimination Bill. It was unanimously passed by the county legislature and makes it illegal for an employer to ask prospective employees about their salary history. The idea is that such questions are discriminatory and help keep people stuck in low-paying jobs. The law takes effect 90 days after signing.
This is local law, intro number 10624 of 2018, passed by the Board of Legislators of the County of Westchester by 16 votes for and 0 against on the 9th day of April 2018, certified by Sunday Vanderburg, Clerk of the County Board of Legislators, and I fix my signature on this the 10th day of the month of April 2018 as County Executive, making this the law of Westchester County.
What would Latimer say to those who question the need for another government rule affecting businesses?
The interference is non-existent. What you're dealing with are people who will go through an interview process. They will ask numerous questions about a candidate. They decide that they want to offer the candidate a job. They establish what that price is for the job, and that's the offer made. The ability to ask about their salary history is made illegal by this action, but it doesn't make impossible all the other questions that goes into making the hiring decision. So I would say if somebody said that to me, I'd say that's a non-issue. That's more about ideology than it is about practicality.
So now you can go and apply for a job, John.
Yes, and you don't have to fill out that section.
Me
and
too.
If you don't want to fill it out, you say, I can't fill this out because it's now against the law to do this. Yeah. And you remember, don't let them trick you like that. Oh, it's our application, and you have to fill it out. But there was a real demonstration yesterday in front of City Hall because the Service Employees International Union was upset that the owners of the building right in back of them there had fired 7 of their employees because they were union members. I talked to Tim McGrath, the field administrator for the Hudson Valley for SEIU, about this. What do you feel, what does the county have to force the contractor here to do?
Well, the law in Westchester County, it's called the Displaced Worker Act, protects workers when this contractor flips in large office buildings here in Westchester. So the new contractor is obligated to hire the incumbent workers that work for the previous contractor and retain them for a minimum of 60 days.
Mm-hmm. And how much notice did they give them?
They didn't give them any notice.
None. I see. Okay, so at this point, where does it stand? Is the county going to take legal action?
Well, the workers are going to take legal action.
I see.
And force the contractor to obey the law.
I see. Where would you file with the National Labor Relations Board, right?
Well, that's a different charge, right?
Okay.
They refused to hire them based on their affiliation. So we filed federal charges on Monday based on the discrimination of their affiliation.
Mm-hmm. And the other matter, the county has to bring them to court?
Well, the workers will bring action in court.
In court.
So they'll have...
Supreme Court here in White Plains?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Yep.
Well, there you go. Right next to City Hall, the owners of this building fire 7 union people, just like that. Not politically correct, I would say. No. But now, coming up, a look at the nation in Washington.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Uh-oh. We're in trouble.
Peter, want to go over this for us?
Trump is tweeting up a storm about fired FBI Director James Comey's new tell-all book. During the campaign, Trump blasted former presidents for disclosing plans to withdraw troops from Mideast conflicts and Vietnam. Now Trump has told the world he intends to pull American troops out of Syria. In fact, he told the Pentagon this week to have them out in 48 hours. The generals told him not only would that be strategically stupid, it would be impossible to do. Trump tweeted an alert to Syria's Assad regime. And the Russians, the tweet said, "Get ready, the missiles are coming." Remember the Nixon tapes? Well, there may be Trump tapes. Reports are circulating that the FBI agents who raided Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen, seized recordings of conversations.
Here we go.
Here we go. Cohen, by the way, supposedly is going into court to try to get a temporary restraining order to prevent the government from looking at anything they seized from him in that raid. A former doorman at a Trump building in New York claims that he was paid $30,000 by the National Enquirer which bought his story and didn't publish it, about Donald Trump fathering a child out of wedlock with his housekeeper. According to Dino Sajudin, he was paid the money in 2015. His claim was reported by both the Associated Press and the New Yorker, and now today by everyone else, including us. Reports say senators were impressed by the way CIA Director Mike Pompeo handled himself during his confirmation hearing to become Secretary of State. Although Pompeo has been a strong backer of Trump in the past and has been very hawkish and warlike, his answers to questions and policy statements were much more mainstream during the hearing. Washington has been on edge with worry that President Trump will create a constitutional crisis by firing Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and putting in someone else who will then fire Special Counsel Robert Mueller, or trying another plan to get rid of Mueller, supposedly being pushed by former strategy advisor Steve Bannon. Bannon is back, apparently, whispering in the president's ear, "You've got to fire Mueller."
They never go away, do they?
Reports indicate that the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, whose office is handling the investigation which resulted in that FBI raid on Trump's personal attorney Michael Cohen and the seizing of evidence, is investigating not only the payoffs to silence porn star Stormy Daniels and others, but is also investigating possible money laundering, bank fraud, wire fraud, and obstruction of justice by Cohen. Despite what Trump and others at the White House have said, Robert Mueller is not the one responsible for that FBI raid. It's under the jurisdiction of the Eastern District U.S. Attorney in New York. As you know by now, President Trump has brought into the White House the radical war hawk John Bolton as a new security advisor. Bolton advocates starting wars with both North Korea and Iran, and is one of those people who believe that since the U.S. has nuclear weapons, it should use them. In view of this, it's probably time to again start teaching nuclear bomb survival in schools just the way it was done in the 1950s. U.S. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos can issue a ruling requiring that all schools start teaching school children how to duck under their desks and cover their heads when an atom bomb explodes, just the way it was done in this film from 1951.
There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and cover, duck and cover.
Yes, we must all get ready now, so we know how to save ourselves if the atomic bomb ever explodes near us. If you do not know just what to do, ask your teacher when this film is over. Discuss what you could do in different places if a bomb explodes. Older people will help us as they always do, but there might not be any grown-ups around when the bomb explodes. Then, you're on your own.
Remember what to do, friends. Now tell me right out loud. What are you supposed to do when you see the flash?
Can you imagine them running that at the White Plains High School?
Well, you know, it brings back lots of memories because I remember seeing those on television. It was pretty scary when I was a kid back in the 50s. Now, something that's not scary, but it was really sensational, is Sister Act. It opened at Westchester Broadway Theater, and that is Zuri Washington, the star who does the Whoopi Goldberg role, and she was sensational, and hardly recommend the show. Now, some good news on the housing front. Westchester sales of a single-family residential home were 1,034 in the first 3 months of 2018, a decrease of 5.6% over the first quarter of 2017. For the quarter of 2018, the first quarter, the median sale price for a single-family home residents in Westchester rose 2.2% to $613,250.
Where are these numbers coming from?
The Hudson Valley Gateway Realtors Association, our friends that put out this information every quarter. Thank you a lot for the information. Gives you a sort of an ongoing bad news. You know? Ongoing bad news. Now, I will be appearing nationally on television on Biz www.biztv.com. And it'll be on April 26th, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on biztv.com. And tune in. It'll be a first for me. I've never been syndicated nationally before.
Well, where are they going to do this? Are you going to a studio? Are they going to come to see you?
Skyping
they're using Skype.
This is a national website. Now, the Granger House is going to be celebrated at the May 3rd Westchester Historical Society dinner. That has been designated a historical landmark, and there'll also be a film about the Jack. I'm having a memory lapse.
Harrington?
That's right. Thank you, Peter. You see, it's always good to have a sidekick like jingles or whatever to fill in when you need it. Right. Now, we have a very touching video that I made at the Holocaust Remembrance Day, and here it is, and just remember.
The stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. יש כחגים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ונעם. יש אנשים שזכרם מזכר, כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד בטוחים. אורות אלה המפיקים בחשכת גליל, דירים שמראים לאדם את הדרך, דירים שמראים לאדם את as we live our days. These are the ways we remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember.
And that was Cantor's Leslie Friedlander and Freda Mendelsohn.
And that was at the Holocaust Memorial, which is on Martina Avenue, just down from the county office building and across from the Galleria Garage here in White Plains.
John Bailey, Peter Katz, Jim Benerofe. Good night for White Plains Week.
This has been White Plains Week. News and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.